ordered by a court to change the way it operates its app store and payment system. Hey, Anand, your take on the ruling?
I think this is middle ground, right? So the question then becomes is how much of Apple's customer base will go outside of the App Store from a payment perspective? What is the can they thwart some of that by potentially reducing the fee structure? And I think the devil here is in the details. You know, one of the back of the envelope calculations that we have done suggested that, you know, there's not as much of an earnings hit because the App Store, again, remember, as everything is big in Apple context, but from an industry context. But from an Apple perspective, this is a portion of the 62 billion or so that it could bring in from the services business. Conceded that it is 80% margins, give or take, and the sales exposure is roughly about 26% of the services business. But, you know, rough math suggests that this is maybe a 40, 50 cent hit on an annual basis. Worst case scenario, if you assume that this goes over to non-Apple payment methods. So I think the devil's in the details. On the face, it looks like this is a huge hit, but remember, not all that 20 billion is suddenly running away from Apple. So I think everybody should take a pause here and look at it from the context of Apple to see how much of teeth this thing really has.
Epic ordered to pay Apple revenue it couldn't collect. Epic Games had circumnavigated Apple's 30% payment cut. The idea was that this huge number was to pay for a curated walled garden that the App Store was meant to represent. And if that is no longer the case, how does the App Store change?
So a couple of different things, right? So from a competitive practices, our antitrust expert, Jen Rhee, will tell you that if it's as long as it's competitively built up, particularly organically, and that it is the garden has a wall, you have to pay to get in. Now we can discuss as to what the appropriate fee for that is, whether it's 30%, whether it's 15%, etc. But the fact that it's organically built up and you can charge to get in. The second part of it is, you know, can the regulators then come in and say it's a public good, you're using the internet, as a result, you have to have a fair value or a fair price that is easily accessible to all. You know, that's a regulatory action, and I think that's going to take a long time if it ever comes to bear. But I think that there are a couple of mechanisms that Apple has to potentially thwart this, which is by reducing it for reducing the barrier to entry. They've done that to some degree with some lower barriers for you know, smaller developers, etc. They can do some things like that takes the teeth out of these actions. But if you think of the overall walled garden ecosystem, the fact that you have to pay to play in that business, it doesn't look egregious to me. The question is, what is the amount one has to pay? And if it's not 30%, is it 15 okay? So those are the questions we think need to be addressed. But from a math perspective, this doesn't seem, we're not going from 20 billion to zero overnight.